We're continuing our discussion of Thunderbolts on this episode of Nerdy Romantics Podcast. Please stick around to the end because we are rating this movie and giving it a star rating. We're also going to talk about some of the surprising characters, depression, Valentina and her view of the world, and how the Thunderbolts actually counteracted her total view of the world. And like I said, we're giving this one a star rating to round it out. As always, we will spoil this one, so spoiler alert! Stay tuned as we discuss Thunderbolts. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
One other thing about the marketing, and maybe just kind of the way that they were uncertain about what to do, is that not only did you have a movie that was about depression, but you had a movie that was sort of the lead character is Yelena, and traditionally the female-led Marvel movies do not do as well. They
that's
have
the other thing.
There's an immediate reaction to a certain percentage of the Marvel fans that do not accept women as lead characters. And so they know
and
that
she's a woman with a certain accent too.
Yeah.
On top of that,
Yeah.
in this movie,
Yeah,
you know,
and that so they know it was going to be an uphill battle to get people into the seats. And again, one of the issues I have with the marketing is that I thought that I was walking in to see the Marvel version of Suicide Squad, and
that's what I thought too.
Yeah. And so, well, we can talk about DC movies on a different day, but the Suicide Squad movies were great and action packed and that kind of stuff, but they weren't great with the character stuff. So they don't have a lot of like movies and TV. They do in the TV shows, but the movies are not nearly so character centric, emotional stories. And so again, that's another thing to when you think about who is a Marvel fan is looking for a superhero experience. They're not looking for the depth of emotion that this movie goes into. There's always emotional moments. Like there's always, big highs and big lows in all the other superhero movies, because it's always, who is going to die? I almost died. Somebody I care about almost died. The city is being destroyed. The earth is going to be destroyed. Like there's a lot of that. But we don't get this like really intense, very, very, very personal, emotional story that we get here. And we get a very deep emotional story about all the different characters because of those backstories that they show.
Yeah. And then the other thing too about these lows is that people have died, but that's it. Like here we see people dealing with versus actually, something happened and they're moving on. We see here people dealing and struggling and trying to figure out how to deal with the aftermath, which is kind of piggybacking what Marcie was saying before, because I was kind of saying nostalgia, but I get what she's saying about the fact that this is a after the end game kind of feel. It's almost like some of the stuff, even though we knew it happened because we've got the shows and we've got some other movies, this really feels like actually seeing what happens after the snap. Where do we go from here? Point. It really has that feel, especially when we go back to New York and we're at the old Avengers Tower. We get an aftermath feel, and on a personal level, we see how people are dealing with it. So, yeah, all of this makes it great, but all of this also makes it hard to market.
Mm-hmm.
And so I agree with the whole female thing that Marvel does not have. They're not good with it. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have my own feelings on that, which I'm not going to talk about here. So,
well, because the other
we
part of this,
touched
like
on,
just to
we've
like
touched
make it
on
more
it a couple.
difficult for Marvel, the other thing that they were struggling with is that this was a movie that was at its very heart is about empathy, and
Yes,
empathy was becoming a really bad word in
exactly.
a lot of
Empathy,
spaces. It was like, how
kindness,
dare you be
and
empathetic?
exactly. And also a theme here is togetherness.
Mm-hmm.
Outsiders getting together, y'all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
also people looking at their past and the mistakes that they've made. So a lot of what has happened to these characters is out of their control, but they, as adults, they made choices, and they're looking at the choices they've made in their past and feeling some kind of way about it and thinking this is kind of where that big regret piece of the story comes in, where so many characters regret the things that they did, and did they or did they not have control over the choices that were made. At the beginning, of course, they don't. Yelena was a child, and these other folks were experimented on, and Ava was a child when she became a ghost, and all those kinds of things. So there was a lot that was outside of their control, but as adults, they did make choices where they stayed in a particular lane, and they are regretting those choices now and wondering if they can make changes to who they are in the future. And that's also not super popular in a lot of media right now. And so,
right.
I mean, these are the things that I absolutely love about this movie and how it just like confronted it and put it right out in the middle of pop culture with millions of dollars behind it and tons of trying to bring this story to, because honestly, it was super brave of Marvel to even let this script get made, right? They could have scrapped the
Yeah.
script. They could have taken it in a completely different direction. It could have been all about the explosions and not about the emotion. And they didn't chicken out, and I got to give Marvel a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Marvel did let this go through. I guess it's because this wasn't something that had like a lot of expectations on Marvel's side too. So they
Yeah.
kind of figured that we're going to do this as a theatrical thing, but really we could have done this as like a Disney Plus exclusive thing. But they decided because because it's picking up on all these other things, but it's not like, with Captain America we talked about where it went through all these reshoots to try and make it appeal to everybody, and in the end by doing that they ended up appealing to nobody really. And I feel like this one, because it didn't have that like name association with anything else, right? Didn't have the Avengers name association. It didn't have the and they could have called it New Avengers, right? But if they did that, to Jen's point, then people would have had a whole much different expectation. So doing it the way they did was very, I think from a marketing perspective, maybe very stupid because they didn't really know how to market it then. But from a creative standpoint, it was very innovative, I thought, the way they decided to do all that. But also, to something Yvonne was saying, made me think too about this movie and its connection to the current era. Like you look at what this movie is. It is these broken people who have been stepped on all their lives, who've been screwed over by the system. Someone says, "Oh, I can fix it for you. I can make it so that you are better. I can make you better." And then they find out, "Oh my God, we got screwed over, and now they're trying to kill us." And what do? They band together and they fight back against the power structure. And at the end, they take control of it, right? Like Yelena says to Val at the end there, "We own you now."
We own you.
Yeah.
But also it's the empathy thing to what Jen was saying too. That empathy for each other is what brings them together and gives them strength. So I think like this movie can be kind of like a rallying cry, and people are going to
Yeah.
be looking back on it in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
The power of empathy.
Yep.
Yep.
The power of empathy and banding together. Yep. Exactly. That's it. Yeah. I totally see it. And when I first saw it, I didn't feel it as much as for some reason as I feel it now. And I think it's just because more stuff has happened in the world and it's all coming to a head. So maybe it's
Exactly.
not coming to a head yet, but it just feels like it is every day. But
Yeah.
yes, the timing of that and how that, yeah. Just yes to everything.
Exactly. Yes to all that.
Yeah, yes to everything. And so with that, what characters were kind of a surprise to you, or maybe not even a surprise to you? You just loved what they did on screen, since this is such a character kind of study. Or maybe we felt everything about everybody, the story was what stood out, and the characters actually being developed, maybe that more so is what stood out to you. So the question is, did any one character stand out to you, or did just the whole fact of the fact that Marvel did this as a character study stand out? Carrie,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously Yelena, right? She's,
yeah,
I mean, just as a related note too, last night my wife and I watched Don't Worry, Darling, and just my God, she is such an amazing actress, right? She is, yeah. And talking about accents too, you mentioned the accents. Like she's from England, but she puts on a completely natural American accent in Don't Worry, Darling. In this one, she puts on this very believable Russian accent too. She's
it's
just
very believable. Yes.
yeah, and she's just on fire at everything I see her in, and she's quickly becoming one of my favorite actresses ever. So, but also that wasn't a surprise, right? I was after seeing her in Black Widow and after seeing her in Hawkeye, I was expecting her to be my favorite character, to be kind of like my standout for this. But beyond that, also Red Guardian was very well done. I thought we got a lot of emotional depth out of him, and he wasn't just the goofy big Russian guy that he was in Black Widow, which was fun. But we did get some of that here too. But we also get a lot more emotional depth than I expected too. And the third one I'd say who was also, well, I mean, fourth, I guess, but Lewis Pullman as Bob, right? He was,
Yes.
I mean, I hate the Sentry character is very kind of annoying in the comics. He had a very good original series, and it was interesting because it was billed as kind of like a prank. This idea of like, oh, we found this superhero that Stan Lee had created, but they just put it in a drawer. And so they kind of built it that way. And they're like, okay. And so they use that as a meta version. So it was this idea of like, he was like the greatest hero in the Marvel universe, but nobody remembers him. There was a reason why they had to like erase everybody's memory of him. So it's like him piecing together his memory and all that. And it was really interesting. They can't really do that in the MCU, I don't think, without being very confusing to people and not having the same amount of history. So instead they did this and they just focused on the mental illness part of it, which I thought Lewis Pullman absolutely stole the show with that too. I wasn't expecting, because originally it was Stephen Yen from The Walking Dead was cast in the role, but he had to back out due to scheduling conflicts or something. So seeing Lewis Pullman really impressed me as Bob, and then Wyatt Russell as John Walker. Like again, I thought he was great in Falcon and Winter Soldier because he is a character that you are supposed to hate. And
yes.
And I love that about him. My wife hated that about him, but I thought he did a great job as that. And then seeing him here and getting more backstory behind him and seeing like the struggles he's going through, I thought Russell very much sold that very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Marcie, any favorite characters, or did we just love the character development here? What did you feel?
So I'm gonna echo Perry a lot but I'm gonna say that my first favorite was the duo of Red Guardian and Yelena, and their
Yes.
dynamic together.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Them in
then
the car. Oh my
right,
gosh, them in the car.
him in the car,
Love
yeah.
it.
And his pep talk in the 11th hour, and like
Yes.
all of those, I think,
Mhm.
and her, even though she's angry at him, her also trying to hype him up and keep and encourage him to
Yes.
when he feels that. Like I think I love their dynamic. I agree that Louis Pullman sold it as Bob / Sentry. Loved it. Yeah, I mean, I love Valentina. Julia Louis-Dreyfus every time is gonna bring it.
Yes.
And
She's
you
amazing.
couldn't
Man,
tell
between
just how even though you knew she was bad, you couldn't tell exactly how bad, and then to get some
Yes.
backstory on why bad, like there was so much. So yeah, those are my heavy hitters, but that is not to say that this was not a consummate cast, that everyone did
Right.
not play like as an ensemble. I think it's one of the better ones in that we did get to see the breadth and depth of each character, and I think that's something that
Agreed.
we don't always get to see in the other ensemble movies.
Mhm.
But those would be my top.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Val, because between, you know, Veep and now her performances here, like
Yeah.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus, she's having kind of a career renaissance, and she's proven like she was the best thing about Seinfeld.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my gosh, she totally
She's
was.
Oh
she's
yeah.
so good.
100%.
She totally
I
was.
love her.
100%.
She nailed it. She nails every scene she's in. She brings exactly what you're looking for. She's always slightly ambiguous as to whether or not I should hate her. Like, I love it.
Yes, exactly.
I'm almost there, and then I'm like, but and then I'm like, no, she's real terrible. But yeah,
Yeah.
love her. Like, she was another one of my favorites, and also in Captain America: Brave New World. Like, I think, yeah, I love to see her on screen.
Yeah. Yep. Jen, what about you? Any character standouts, or did we
Yeah.
love it together, or how did we feel about characters?
So I've already professed my love for Florence Pugh, and
Yeah.
and anybody who sees this movie and becomes another fan of hers, she's just really fantastic. So she's my number one. But I do have to agree that her and what's his name? David Harbour, Alexi.
Alexi.
Yeah, Lexi, yes.
Those two together, because the fighting that the two of them would do where they were arguing, every time that they argued made me laugh. And then every time that they got serious with each other, when she was talking about how she had lost her sister and he didn't contact her for a year, and it's very easy to be on Yelena's side at that moment.
Yeah.
And then when he pipes up and he's like, I don't know how to do this. And you think about
Yeah.
how much, what was taken from him in that way of being his ability to just relate to people the way that you kind of would, right? If somebody loses somebody important to them, like her sister, right, then it seems obvious that you would go and comfort that person, but he doesn't have that because it was kind of trained out of him, right? Remember, he did a whole lot of killing. And so what happens to people after they lose somebody that they love? And he was the person who killed all these people, right? So
Yeah.
I really appreciated that they sort of added so many layers of intricacy in their relationship. So, and the other one I'm going to say is the John Walker character, because he is just somebody that I have. It's not that he was forgettable, it's just that he was kind of on the forgettable side for me. He was like, oh, he was there as kind of a foil. He was there as someone who was kind of being manipulated in some ways, and but for him personally, what he loses when he loses the job of Captain America, and how he lost his family, he lost himself, he lost so many things, and how he brings that. It's only a couple of scenes, but he brings that, to the forefront. And what happens when you lose your dream job? What happens? Sorry, Yvonne.
My dream
That's okay.
job is still out there.
I know. But but he was so high, and then he was dropped down, and how that clouded his ability to see what he still had, right?
Yeah.
He allowed that disappointment, that shame, maybe that regret, that all those things, he allowed that to get in the way of recognizing the love that he had in his life, and push it away. And he created his own reality. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna echo a lot of what everybody's saying here about the character standouts. The character that I think changed my feeling about them or surprised me the most was the John Walker character, because I was like, this dude, I hated him. I knew I was supposed to hate him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I did, but he's complicated here. And that makes me feel complicated.
Exactly.
And just like Jen said, I mean, essentially, this guy was the achiever. He is like the ultimate, like, person that that achieves and succeeds at everything that they do. And he failed miserably at being Captain America. So much so that they gave it to a reluctant Sam Wilson. And Bucky had to say, listen, you're supposed to be Captain America. I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, y'all. I love that. I love that show. But
great, of course.
But yet to see him kind of go into a spiral after that, and again, like Jen is saying, it's only a couple of scenes where we see he is not in a good place, and we know that he's lost his wife and child because of this. It's like, yeah, it's a complicated kind of feeling. You feel some kind of way, and I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
No,
And I
I
think it
really
reinforces
wasn't expecting that.
what I said at the beginning about what happens when you become expendable, right? When you
Yes.
And what do you do after? And he can't even, I mean, there's a part of him that can't even acknowledge the loss of his wife and child. Like he doesn't even
Right. He
he
doesn't.
can't even
Yeah.
he can't even acknowledge that part of life has happened, because that's the thing that basically is gonna break him. And so I think it's that whole thing about the cost of heroism, right? The cost of being the hero.
Yeah.
And what happens when you're not what people wanted, or you couldn't be the hero, and you're no longer, nobody's cheering for you. Like clearly there's no support group for what happens after Marvel, after heroism, after your assignment is over, right? There doesn't seem to be any kind of exit program.
There's no therapy group,
no therapy
where's
group,
the
no halfway
circle?
house, no counselor. And so
there.
I think you're right. It was a small part on screen, but it was also, it resounded with every one of them in some way about what happens after, when people have decided they no longer need your services for whatever reason, whether you were extremely good at it or extremely bad, but now someone else has decided that you're not worthy.
Exactly. And it's funny how when they first realized that in the vault that they are here to basically kill each other, and because they are no longer needed, how they band together, and how Valentina didn't even realize that was going to happen.
Right.
It's just so interesting how people get kind of a tunnel vision, or people just like, they don't understand. They don't understand that people could band together.
Again, it's because they don't value, she didn't value
because
them
they
as
didn't
people.
value that person to begin with.
So
Exactly.
she didn't attribute any kind of personal because to her they were just pawns in the game. And I don't think she expected them to act as anything other than what they had been. And I don't think she valued their life enough to recognize that they might value their own lives. I think she was
and
like,
that too. It's like, okay, there's no survival there's gonna be no survival instinct here. It's like, are you kidding me?
Well, there's also a arrogance there where she thinks I've been manipulating them. I've been so like I can, obviously they're gonna do what I say, and they're gonna because I'm smarter than them. They're stupid. So I think there's that part of it too.
Yes, exactly. It's like they're not going to figure it out. I am.
And by the time they do, it won't matter.
Yeah, right. And that's a little bit of why I like her, but I hate her. She's like that master manipulator, but at the same time, she's got such a narcissistic personality, that she does not see you got to be manipulated as well. Like, these people that you hire, these people are just as savvy as you think you are.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe even more so. And because you can't see past your own ego, you might actually get gone because of that. And she almost did, as we know, right? she almost got gone because she couldn't see past her own ego. You know,
Yep.
it's just a wonderful performance by
Yeah.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus, but
Was.
also like her character, and she's been doing that in every Marvel movies. It's like she gives me that feeling in every one, you know, but she's good at it, and especially in this one.
Yeah,
But
I think with
I,
her, she thinks that she's in control, and then we first see her realize that she's not so in control when she's talking to Bob. Bob has made the transformation into the what's his name?
The Sentry.
Sentry, and she's confronting him in the watchtower, and he says, "Oh no, like I'm the one with the power. Like I'm not going to do what you say." And
why
because,
should I
right,
do
I'm more
this?
powerful than the Avengers, and at least one of the Avengers was a god, so therefore I am a god. And she's like, "You're gonna throw
Right.
that god word around," and then like the realization that comes over her when she's like, "Oh crap,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
no, I've lost control of the situation," right? And
Would
and it's interesting because her worldview, right, is based on the idea that there are bad people and worse people, right? And so that really clouds what she thinks is possible with the people that she surrounds herself with and the people that she thinks she can manipulate, because that's her whole worldview.
Yeah.
one of the things
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off that is Julie Louis-Dreyfus's performance in that scene, right? It's not like the standard, like, oh my God, I can't believe what's happening. You know, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal type of thing, right? It's not
Right.
that. Instead, she's just like, it's almost like this resign. Ah, crap.
Right.
Now I gotta deal with this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so her feeling that she's still in control, that she still has the power, is still there, and it's gonna get her gone if she doesn't.
Yeah. She realized, she's like, "Oh, I have to change my strategy." All right, well,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
that's where
the
she is
way
in that
she's
moment.
it's
She
more
just needs a new strategy,
resigned.
and she'll be back. She's gonna get this back.
Exactly.
Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. It's a little wrinkle.
Right.
And I
We're
think
gonna
that's
go.
what makes the moment with Yelena where she says, "We own you now." I think that's what makes that
Yes.
moment all the sweeter. Is
E-
that in that moment
exactly.
it's like she realizes that she's gotten got by her own plan. Like she knows that this is what she deserves. Like, and I think that was the best part for me, is because she recognized she had been bested almost by her own plan. Like she, in that moment, it was
That's
just, it
right.
was so smoothly done. It was great. There were some excellent moments, and I'm
Yeah.
sad that people didn't see more of them.
Right. But I agree with you as far as if you put these in the trailer, you done messed up you messed up
Yep.
the whole movie. You can't put these in the trailer, but these are the gems, you know?
But
This
these
is
are the
what would
gems.
this is what would get you watching. And the other character that I didn't realize was going to affect me the way that character did was Bob.
Mhm.
You said played by Lewis Pullman?
Yeah.
Yes. But Bob, aka Robert Reynolds, aka Sentry, aka The Void.
Mhm.
So I did not realize that character was going to affect me the way that they did, but that character really, I will say, and I've never really said this on the podcast, I don't think, but I will probably give maybe a little bit of a trigger warning here, because if you are somebody who deals with depression and maybe deals with depression and maybe has been in an abusive situation or something like that, this is one of those movies where I think that I would go into it with caution.
Yep.
I would say trigger warning there, or content warning, whatever you prefer, because some of the scenes with him going into his various rooms.
Right.
Yeah. That got to me. And and this is the thing, is that this anti-hero slash superhero is dealing with their trauma right in front of our eyes. And this is how they're dealing with it. The only other kind of superhero where we kind of see, and we don't see in a lot of things, them deal with their trauma is Batman, right? We know the Batman story, we know the origin story, we know what's going on, but we also know that he has trauma, especially in the Dark Knight. We know that he has trauma.
Right. Yeah.
But in here, we're actually seeing this character dealing with their trauma. We're seeing this superhero slash villain slash calls himself a god or whatever, but he has these powers, but he also has this big traumatic side to him that's actually taking over him. I think with Batman, and then Venom, the whole Spider-Man Venom two sides kind of thing, but it's not done in this kind of way where it's really dealing with it on an emotional, vulnerable kind of level. And I really wasn't expecting that. I really appreciated how they did it. It was amazing how they did it, but I really wasn't expecting it. What did we think about this whole depression angle? I know we've talked some about it. What do we think about seeing this in a movie and seeing this as kind of a vehicle for villainy a little bit? Because of course he's using it against the New Yorkers there.
He is, but I think he has a couple things that are going on with him, right? I really appreciated that they put this in there because we don't see it. It's something that we really don't see portrayed well in media, generally speaking. So we have a character who is very, very, very suicidal, and is, he, from the beginning when we meet him, and Yelena sees it and is like, she's like, I know what that darkness is. We don't have to give into the darkness, right? And uses that language with him. And so when we find out in his backstory, right, of the abuse that he suffered, and one of the challenges for somebody who has that in their history is, what do you do when you do have power, right? And what is that? How can a person react who has never had any power at all? Not just like normal human challenges, but somebody who's literally never had power in their life. And now, and then is, and has all these things that were done to him, because I don't have the impression that he has any control over when we first meet him and he touches someone and takes them and they go into their rooms, and they explore their own past and they explore their own trauma or something. I don't have the impression that he's doing that on purpose. Right. So that's just something he doesn't have control over it. And then we find out that he can see that as well. So he's experiencing not only his own past, but he's experiencing their past and their trauma as well. And so that brings us into that world of, there are bad people and there are worse people, because that's all he can see. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Is the idea. And Yelena has to remind him of that there are other options out there, right? That's her, in her conversation with him about, helping him to kind of see that it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of mirrors the recovery journey of so many people, is that it is in that transparency of, there is more, there is better, there's something after healing there. And I think that was a beautiful depiction of what recovery journey looks like. And I think it was really well done. I do agree, not necessarily with like a trigger warning, but just to understand that if you are in a place of deep emotion of any kind, that this movie could potentially either force you to deal with that, or at least remind you or reflect what you're feeling in the moment. But there's some power in that too, in seeing it, in seeing someone else in the rooms and the things. There was a real unpacking of the mind of, that's what it's like, okay, to see that, I think is also validating to people who are dealing with this type of emotion, people who are, are manic or who have disorders where they go through these phases often. I do think it was validating to see that in real life and to have people who don't experience that have an understanding of what that might be like. So I do think for people who don't have that as part of their journey, it's actually enlightening to see a depiction
Yeah.
of it and to understand the way that someone in your life that might be dealing with it may never be able to explain it to you. But I think in the seeing of it, it may help. I mean, I think there are a lot of conversations that can be had after that movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is another place where,
Yes.
again, I think it was just one of those where I want more people to see it because I feel like it was excellent. It was an excellent story and it was so brilliantly acted. And I hope that people do get to see it because I do think there is a lot of conversation to be had in a lot of different spaces. I think there are a lot of families who are facing loss and grief and that kind of angst between each other that you see between Yelena and what's his real name? Not Red Guardian? Alexi. I think there's something to be said about that too, because people grieve differently and understanding two people in the same space having experienced the same loss, but from different perspectives. I mean, I think there's just so many things that can come from that. Also a good story. But
Yes.
also some powerful discussions that can be had. And I think we're handled in very thoughtful ways that I think you're right, Jen, we don't often see on screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Perry, anything to add about this? I want to ask you something from a comic book perspective, but anything to add to the depression discussion here?
No, I think you guys covered it very well. Although I will say, I thought one shortcoming of the movie was that we don't see the other rooms that the other characters end up in. We only see them come together with Yelena at the end. And I think, I mean, the movie's not that long. It's 127 minutes. We could have had, tack on an extra 10 minutes and show us what happened in those other rooms, or at least give us some hint of it and how they broke free of it. I think that would have been very helpful, especially like, with Bucky too, right? My whole headcanon for what he did in his room was that because we've seen Bucky go through this journey, he's come out the other end.
Yeah.
So I think like him going into one of those rooms and him seeing like himself as the old Winter Soldier under Hydra's control, and then if he just goes like, it's like, nope, I've dealt with this already, then he just punches out the Hydra guys or something like that, and then punches his way out the room. I think that would have been cool. I think that would that's my headcanon for what happened in that room, because he's been
with his arm.
He's been through that journey already. And so I think showing him and as like I feel like I love Sebastian Stan. I think he's an exceptional actor, and I feel like if anything, I feel like he didn't have enough to do in this movie, and I think he could have used with a little bit extra screen time. He could have been the one who is, like the model for these guys. Like, I've been where you have been. I have come out the other end, and I'm going to help you do that. Which is connected going back to the comic books thing. That's what Hawkeye did for the Thunderbolts too, because Hawkeye was originally a villain when he first appeared in the comics. And then Captain America gave him a second chance and gave him a chance to become an Avenger, and then he was doing the same thing for those Thunderbolts who wanted to reform. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to be your second chance. I'm going to give you the second chance someone gave me. And I think that's a good position for Bucky to occupy. And I think that's what they were trying to go for thematically as a connection to the comics, but I don't think they had actually conveyed that as well as they could have in the movie itself.
Yeah.
I agree. I love me some Sebastian Stan. Y'all know that. Y'all know I love me some Bucky. Bucky Barnes, yes. Oh gosh. And when he put his arm in the dish. I was like, yeah. I love everything about him. But I felt like, and because we've talked about all of these different characters, it's interesting that we didn't talk about him. He's probably the most visible of all of these characters as far as MCU. Do we know him from something else kind of thing? And he was really more of a tertiary character here. He was kind of secondary, kind of.
That's why I didn't bring him up.
Yeah, he was very much kind of secondary, and I thought he was going to have a little bit of a a leadership role, but when you see Yelena do what she does, I'm like, no, Bucky, you need to just drive the truck, right on into Avengers Town. But
well, I love
that
that. So
I thought that was funny
love
too, because like he's talking to Red Guardian, right? And Red Guardian is like, we can be co-leaders together. And he's like, what's the plan? And Bucky's like, plan? And I'm like, this is where you lead, dude. This is where you do your thing. Perry, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was gonna say the same thing. I love that moment when he's like, wait, I have to come up with a plan, because he's never been the one to do that. So I thought that was a good moment too.
Yeah, I mean, he has his moments, but yeah, I feel like he's kind of secondary in this new Avengers thing. And it's funny that that happened too, because now that we know from the mid end post credit, whatever it is, post credits, that there's two Avenger things kind of going on here. He's kind of the bridge, if you think about it. Because him and Sam Wilson, they're buddies, right? So he's kind of the bridge in between that. And so for him, we could have a really integral role, but in Captain and the Winter Soldier, we just get a blip of him there. I mean, not Captain and the Winter Soldier. I'm sorry, Captain America: Brave New World. Y'all, it's getting late. We just see a blip of him there. And here he's kind of in a secondary kind of area here. It's like, what are we doing with this character? But so, yeah, I feel some kind of way about that, but I still love me some Bucky Barnes. Okay. But the thing that I wanted to ask, and I think you've kind of answered it a little bit, Perry, is the Sentry character in the comics. So I think, you need to correct me where I'm wrong on this, because I think I'm wrong on it in a lot of ways. But my first thought was that the Sentry comic was not a Marvel comic. So you're saying that I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, it was a
was
Marvel
its
book.
own thing, and it wasn't Marvel, and Marvel had gotten it. But you're saying, no, that's not true.
No, I think you're conflating Sentry with Miracle Man, which was something that Marvel acquired. So Miracle Man was kind of like this, originally called Marvel Man in the UK. It was basically a Captain Marvel Shazam ripoff back in the UK, and then so it was like back during during the Silver Age, like in the 60s or the 70s when it was coming out. And then it went dormant, wasn't very popular. And then a publisher picked it up. I think it was Eclipse Comics, I remember correctly. And Alan Moore started like this genre defining run on it that like completely changed like superhero comics. It's very much a precursor to things like Watchmen and all that, and Dark Knight Returns and all that. And he had done this really excellent run on it. They couldn't call it Marvel Man because of Marvel Comics, so they changed the name to Miracle Man. There was a whole legal battle over it over the years, and then the legal battle was settled a few years back when Marvel bought the rights. So that's separate from the Sentry. The Sentry was created for Marvel by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee, and it was originally supposed to be this idea of, this was this superhero that Stan Lee created, but he never did anything with. We found it in the Marvel archives, and we're going to do a new series with him, and we're going to use that idea as a springboard into the series where he's this forgotten hero in the Marvel universe that nobody remembers. So, and it turned out that was just all, it was very much kind of a Blair Witch kind of fake out. Like it was something that was just created recent by those creators. It wasn't a forgotten creation or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
But they did, it was an excellent series, and it dealt with the idea of like this hero who he had this dark side. His arch villain, the Void, was his own dark side. So in order to contain the Void, he had to contain himself too, and he had to make the whole world forget he had existed. So it's got some similar beats to Miracle Man. This whole idea of like the hero forgot who he was, he has to rediscover himself and all that. And at the end of the series, he had basically suppressed himself again. He had gone back into hiding, and then in the new Avengers comics, they brought him back, and basically the writer Brian Michael Bendis clearly didn't know what to do with this character who was so powerful, so he just kind of like always had him having to stay back at like having to stay out of the sight or something like that. And then eventually he got, basically nothing interesting was ever done with him other than that first series. And now this movie.
Wow. Right. And two is happening in this movie, kind of like in the post credits. Everybody's like, "You're the only one that can fly." He's like, "No, I can't do that because my dark side comes out." When I did the dishes, he's like, "What?"
Right, but I did the dishes. And he was so proud.
He was very proud. It was so funny. But yeah, that whole character and all of that happened with that character, it's just, it really, yeah. That I wasn't thinking that was going to happen. But then I wasn't thinking that a lot of this was going to happen. That happened, and it did, and it's wonderful. And in that vein, because we've talked so much about this, hey, look, before we give it a Goodreads rating, and before I get off of this, is there something that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about? Anybody?
Well, I do think we got a little bit shortchanged with the Taskmaster fake out and how she gets killed right away.
Yes.
And and they had actually shot more scenes with Olga Kurilenko too, and like there was like some more scenes of like her and Ghost interacting, which I get what they were trying to go for with that, and that character was also changed a lot from the comics, so it gives them now an opportunity to maybe bring in a Taskmaster that's close to the comics. I don't know if that was the thinking, but I do feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity, because I think we could have seen some interesting stuff with her, and it would have given Ava more to do, because she kind of feels like the person on the outs in the team, like she doesn't really have a whole lot of room to maneuver. She doesn't have a whole lot of depth to her in this movie. I mean, a little bit more than she got in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but not enough, at least compared to the other characters.
Yeah, she also didn't get even a dark scene. At least a few of them got that,
Right.
She didn't even get that, So yeah, that's interesting. Anybody else, something that we missed?
Okay, I had a different interpretation of something.
Okay.
So I thought the Fantastic Four little stinger that we had, I thought that was because, and then I saw the Fantastic Four movie. I thought that the little blip that something's happening in space had more to do with whatever caused the Fantastic Four to be the Fantastic Four, then changed them and gave them their powers. I thought that's what they were referring to. And because the Fantastic Four movie starts where they already have powers, we don't see them get their powers. So I thought that's what that referred to, not that it referred to them like connecting with the primary timeline. So, but there you go.
One question, Perry, about this. So at this point, I have not seen Fantastic Four, but it will be out on video before we do this.
It has Pedro Pascal, so you know it's going to be good.
Exactly. I mean, I wanted to see it in the theater, but job stuff. So my question is, so are we in the 616 universe in Thunderbolts, and is Fantastic Four in the 834? Are they in the other
828.
multiverse? 82 whatever? Are they in the other one? Is that how
they're
that
in
is?
their own completely separate universe right now, and when they come into 616, that's the post-credit scene in Thunderbolts.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking.
And you know what? People were complaining about that post-credit scene in Thunderbolts, like, oh, they spoiled the end of Fantastic Four. They didn't. They did not. You'll see when you see Fantastic Four that they didn't spoil anything in here. They're just setting them up for Doomsday.
Okay, good. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, I was gonna watch it anyway, but that's good to know. And so 828, that's the one with X-Men in it, right?
No, X-Men is its own
that's
separate thing, right? This is, as far as we know, because the Fantastic Four, which you'll see when you see it, it's set in like a retro futuristic version of the 1960s.
Yeah,
that's what 828 is. So yeah, it's nothing to do with the X-Men. Back when Fox
so they're
owned
totally
back when Fox had the rights to both Fantastic Four and X-Men, they were thinking about linking them together, but they never actually did, because the Tim Story movies. There was actually an edited scene in the first Tim Story Fantastic Four movie when Reed Richards, Ian Grufford, shapeshifts into Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And and so they cut that out, and because they weren't sure how it'd do, and if it was going to be successful, then they were talking about like linking them together, but it wasn't successful enough, and so they never linked them together.
Okay, all right. So I'm glad I got that. Figured out in my mind, and with that, let's give this one a Goodreads rating. So, for those of us who may not know, we rate this based on Goodreads because we are supposed to be a book podcast. Although, this is from comic books. So, there we go. So, the Goodreads rating is 1 star. We did not like it. 2 stars. It was okay. 3 stars. We did like it. 4 stars. We really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing. And on this show, you can rate in between. So, Marcie, what about you? What is your rating for this one? And any reason why that we don't know yet?
I would give it a good 4.5. I thought it was a good story. Like I said, I was part of a diverse group and we all enjoyed it, which I think helps me recommend it. It was brilliantly acted. I love the pace. Yeah, this one I would recommend, and I'll definitely watch again.
Awesome sauce. Carrie, what about you? What would you rate it?
Yeah,
and why?
I'll go 4.5 as well. It's great film, just like Marcie said, very well acted, very great story. It just those few little, very minor kind of quibbles brings it down by half a point for me. Like I wish we got to see more of Taskmaster. I wish we got to see more of Ava. I wish we got to see all the characters have their own little room to break out of, and I wish we could have get a little bit more meat on Bucky's development too. But other than that, it was very impressed. I was not expecting it to like it as much as I did. So yeah, 4.5.
Yeah. Jen, what about you? What's your rating and why?
I loved this movie, so I'm gonna go with I was gonna give it a 5, but Perry's right. There's a few things that I would have liked added to it, but yeah, I really love this movie, so we're gonna go 4.75 on this one because it's just so perfect. I love, like I said before, when we started, I'm here for an interesting story. I really want to know. And I like that Marvel has taken their success and turned it into being able to explore story and explore characters in different ways that are outside of what we normally think of in superhero movies and TV shows. So I really love to see them flexing those muscles and really giving us something interesting and different than what we'd expect and have that sort of reflection back on who we are as human beings. And I just really appreciate that they're going there and they're being brave, and that means a lot to me. So, you know what? I'm gonna give it a 5. Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna go back to my original. I'm gonna go back to the 5 because honestly, it was extremely brave of them to put this movie out, and I just love that they did it. So
Okay. All right. Since you're going to 5, I'm going to give it 4.75, which is what I was going to give it anyway. And of course, my big reason for it being 4.75 is because we did not get enough of Sebastian Stan. That is all.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. To see him wind his arm. Oh my gosh, I love it. Anyway, no, let me stop. So, yes, I really loved where they went with this movie. I really loved the things I feel like, yes, they did some experimentation here by bringing some of their character analyses, kind of character in depth that they have in the TV shows, bringing it to the big screen and to an ensemble. That's the other thing about it, because the TV shows focus on one big character. Like Loki is one big character. I mean, other characters too. But like we know in Hawkeye, there's also Yelena in Hawkeye, but a lot of them focus in depth on one character. But here we get that ensemble Avengers feel, but we also get that TV character development kind of thing, that going deep into the character. And we don't lose any of the superhero stuff. The bangs are not as big, but there's still explosions here. New York is still blowing up here. I don't know how many times they're going to do this to New York, poor New York City. Jeez. But, stuff is happening. Like, a mountain is, being lit on fire here, there's a lot of stuff going on, action stuff, but then there's also a lot of in-depth character development stuff that I love. And yes, there's just a few little things, which is why I'm going 4.75 that we talked about that don't get it right to 5 for me. But I agree with Marcie. I really feel like people slept on this one and they don't need to. This is the one that you don't sleep on. And hopefully they will come back to this one. So I am so happy to talk about Thunderbolts with all of you. And so, one thing before we leave, if you are listening or watching and you find yourself in a crisis state and you feel suicidal, please do not deal with that alone and contact in the US and Canada. You can contact 988. You can call or text and have someone help you. There's also 988lifeline.org. Please don't deal with a crisis situation alone. You are not alone. There are people who can help you. Call or text 988, or you can go to 988lifeline.org, because even though we're doing some laughing about Avengers and Red Guardian, depression is something that we need to address, and you don't have to do that alone. Just like the movie says, you do not have to do that alone. They can help. So that's that. Thanks everybody for being on. And I'm going to have y'all back for Fantastic Four, of course, since we talked about it so much.
Yay!
Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy nerdy romances and stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.